we're back. All right. Let's pull this up. All right, on to match 2, game 2. I wanted to get through more than 2 games today. I wanted to try to hit 4, but that's not happening. That's fine. All right. So we can see everything. Epic Pen's still working. Wonderful. All right. This one's going to be nice and fast, I hope. So, looking at runes real quick. I'm going to go over the short version because I've already addressed runes so many times. All that's standard. Last stand is acceptable, but coup de grace is generally preferred, especially when you're looking at triple squishy. Bone plague bad, overgrowth fine. But, like, yeah, this should be second wind. This should be second wind. And then this should be... No, this is fun. So it should be second wind plus overgrowth. That's okay. Normal. This is really, really bad. This should be tenacity. Bloodline doesn't actually help her. Coup de grace should be last stand. Coup de grace sucks. Demolish doesn't help you. It's a win more rune. Bone plating is bad, especially versus Akali. You can poke it out for free. So this should be second wind plus revitalize or conditioning plus revitalize because you heal for an absurd amount. J4, normal, and this is probably okay because Swain will be picking up Rylai's and the perma slow from Anivia, and then you also have root, slow. Yeah, that's okay. This is okay for J4 because he needs to be able to find a way out if something goes wrong. Kindred, normal. I don't like Treasure Hunter. I prefer other things like Relentless Hunter because when you pull out the calculator on Treasure Hunter, you get up to a max of 550 gold. But if you have Relentless Hunter, generally you can get 2+ kills just by moving faster or like winning 2+ fights. And that immediately becomes worth more than Treasure Hunter because each kill is worth 300 to 450. Because 450 for the 150 for the assist. So 300 kill, 150 assist. So it's not bad. It helps you snowball uncontrollably really early on. But that's only if you're killing multiple lanes, which is not generally a reality. This is win more. All right, we're looking at Silas. Normal. Beautiful. Look at this. Hell yeah. Up. Star W. That should be a Q start. Touch on that later. Nivea. If we're going the electrocute route, normal. Bad. Very bad. Nivea doesn't roam anywhere. Nivea doesn't do anything. So this becomes kind of awkward because she doesn't have a good one in this row. Besides, like, just taking the bounty hunter. Not bounty hunter. Treasure hunter. Because she's never moving. Her entire job is sit down, be a bunker, and stay there. And that's literally it. So why does Relentless Hunter change that? You could go Ingenious Hunter and go towards... my brain is dying. The Everfrost. Yeah, Everfrost is really good this game. Because everybody's kind of coming into you. So this should be Everfrost, and you can go Ingenious Hunter off that. Plus Zonius. So Everfrost... Shirelli... No. Everfrost, Seraph's Embrace, Zonius should be the build this game. You can go Leandry's, but that's only if, like, your carries are very far behind. Because Alawi's high damage, Kindred's high damage, Zaya's high damage. Swain has acceptable damage, but only when accelerated as support. He needs to be accelerated as support. He requires too much. He requires 2 items, but supports don't get to 2 items cleanly. Secondary's Presence of Mind, Coup de Grace, pretty standard. That's really normal. Nothing too special there. You could potentially go Cut Down, because beefy. But also, you can build, like, Demonic Embrace as the game progresses, and that completely removes Cut Down, so. Coup de Grace is generally the more acceptable one. Now, this game, because everybody's so beefy, this should not be Electrocute, because Electrocute is for Burst. Why do we care about Burst versus beefy people? We want sustained DPS. Also, if we want to take Burst, we can also just take First Strike versus Silas, because we shouldn't be losing First Strike under a standard circumstance. And as the game progresses, we still shouldn't be losing First Strike versus the majority of these characters. First Strike will do more than Electrocute. Electrocute is just more consistent because you can do it whenever you feel like it, and then Nivea Q, pass through, E, proc. Really nice. But best one here, by far, Unsealed Spellbook. Hands down, Unsealed Spellbook. It's not even close. So correct runes should be Unsealed Spellbook, Boots, Futures, and you should start with... do we go the Futures route? No. Yeah, probably Futures and Sapphire Crystal start, so you can power the Lost Chapter at 6th item, or at 6th wave, so that way you can just bully out the Silas for the rest of the game, then pick up tier after because you stack up tier so quickly, and you don't really want Seraph's Embrace early because Seraph's Embrace is one of the worst mathematical items in the entire game after the changes. It's terrible. You basically only build it because you need mana. You don't have an option in the matter. And then secondaries for Anivia Instead of Presence of Mind coup de grace, you're probably looking more towards Blue Tree for Mana Flow Band plus probably Gathering Storm, because you're playing for later game with this team. And especially with how much AoE you are, Gathering Storm can be absolutely disgusting, because she has good AP ratios too. Yeah, so it'll probably be Mana Flow Band, Gathering Storm as your next two, because you don't care about Transcendence as a Anivia. Doesn't do anything for you. Attack speed, ability power. Okay. So that'd be best option. Draven, normal, normal, normal. Not last stand. Coup de grace, because you can't afford to be low without dying, especially versus a team with this high of damage. You just die if you get to last stand range. And then Eyeball Collector, Treasure Hunter. That's super, super standard. Again, don't like Treasure Hunter, but on Draven, who's trying to snowball uncontrollably, makes sense. I'm trying to think if you could justify last stand, actually. I don't think so, especially in this game. I think it would just have to be coup de grace, which sucks, but yeah, there's no way you can run last stand versus an execute, basically an execute with a Nibia E. It's not a real execute, but it does so much damage. You're dead if it hits, if you're stunned. Xayah Rend, by the time that comes out, you're just dead. Yeah, no, last stand doesn't function here. You die too easily. Cleanse is very, very good, though. Xayah, normal, normal. I want to say it's Alacrity, not Bloodline, because she cares so much about attack speed, because it's how fast she can get her feathers out. So I don't think Bloodline's correct. Coup de grace, really, really standard. And then secondaries, you went for Magical Footwear Biscuits. That's fine. You're against a basically pop lane, so you can't go for Second Wind. That's not really an option, because Second Wind normally heals for more than Biscuits, but not if you're dead. So I think that's okay. I think this is fine. I think the other option you could potentially go for would be like Sorcery Tree for Transcendence plus Gathering Storm, because you are playing for later. I think that could potentially have more value than Boots Biscuits, but I don't think this is inherently bad. It also makes the lane much, much more stable versus a Draven, which is a good thing. Rakan. Normal, normal, terrible. That's fine. This is good. Normal, normal. This is good. This is good. Only Bone Playing needs swapped out. Bone Playing is just a bad rune. When you look at it. Talked about it in game 1. Conqueror Swain support. Okay, this needs to be talked about. So Conqueror on Swain can be really, really good because he's playing for hyper extended fights. He can stack it up. It's really, really nice in that regard. Problem, you're a support. You don't have the stats to stay in the side of a fight for an extended period of time unless you're already winning. Second problem, Conqueror scales with the ability power based on your level. You don't get levels as a support. Third problem, ranged champions stack this up much, much slower, so generally the fights need to be longer for them. They need multiple rotations of abilities to be able to do it. You're not getting multiple rotations off of abilities as a support Swain. You're bursting and then you're leaving. Because if you play for an extended fight, you're going to lose, because Swain requires a lot of stats. In the early game, he's literally playing for E. It lands, you W, you rend, and you Q, and then generally you walk out. If you do more than that in bot lane, you will die, because there can be 2 people that focus you. You cannot do that as the support, because Conqueror is a mid-game rune. Not an early game rune, a mid-game rune. You don't have a mid-game as a support. It doesn't work. Triumph should be Presence of Mind if you are going Conqueror, because you do care about mana expenditure heavily, because mana basically equates to health because of your W and E. Bloodline makes no sense. You deal 0 auto attack damage, and lifesteal is only for auto attacks. Last stand would be correct there. So this would be Tenacity normally. Then secondaries, we have Second Wind Overgrowth. Second Wind doesn't make sense because these two are trying to just pop you. So this would be Conditioning, if anything. And then Swain heals an absurdly large amount, so we want Revitalize. We don't care about Overgrowth. Do not care. Overgrowth doesn't do anything for us. Because also we should be roaming relatively frequently. Especially as Swain, because we want to get around the map. We're not an enchanter who just sits there and exists. We want to get around the map. We do have decent like gank potential, excuse me. So we're losing a lot of minions because we're just not around them, which is correct. If we are the same level as our AD carry, something is inherently wrong. Because there are champions, there are a lot of them, that don't have to be the same level as their AD carry to be able to function. So why would we take resources from our carry in order for our support to function? That doesn't make sense. Excuse me. Not unless the support brings up an insanely large amount of value at a specific spike. Swain gives that at 2 items. We're not waiting to 2 items for a support. It's not happening. Enchanters hit Moonstone and then start team fighting. That's why they power it, because it has such absurd value as singular item. If we're waiting, what is that? Imperial mandates 26, I think? 25? We're going to go 25. I'm going to lower it, just make it as simple as possible. And then Rylai's is 26, I believe, as well. Something close to that. So 25 and 26. We're not waiting 5,100 gold for you to be a champion before you stop leeching experience. No one's going to wait that long. That's why it doesn't function. So in correct runes, if we are playing support Swain, should just be things to be able to, like, disengage fights as cleanly as possible, or to, like, basically working around what our trade pattern is. So you can go Unsealed Spellbook to be able to have bursts of power, so you can take quick burst trades, and then when you want to all in with your ultimate, you just swap to double combat summoners, and that gives you value. Or probably Phase Rush this game. Yeah. Because Phase Rush allows you to be able to kite around all the melees and play accordingly. Because also, versus all of this, even if you have 2 items on Swain, by the time you hit 2 items, everybody else is at 4, and you just get 1 shot anyway, so you need Zonias. So you can't even go Rylai second item, actually. So then you're just worthless. It doesn't do anything. It feels really, really bad, but that's the reality. So yeah, support Swain, I think you're basically forced into Unsealed. Or Phase. Because you could make the argument of, like, I want to play Dark Harvest or Electrocute Swain, but if that's the argument, go play another mage. Go play a damage mage. Go play something that uses those runes better. Because you can pull out, like, Bruise or Brand and just destroy front lines as well, just like with Swain, if Swain gets accelerated. But Brand doesn't have to be accelerated. Brand presses R and dies and does more value, or has more value. I'm trying to think if there's a better rune option. I don't think there is, yeah. So it literally has to be Phase Rush or Unsealed, favoring Unsealed. Because the Phase Rush trades don't actually do that much this game, because it's a bunch of melees. It's better to have Unsealed and have multiple combat sums. So all these runes are wrong. They don't actually do anything. We can look at the Conqueror healing after the game, too. It's going to be really, really low. Alright. Looking at Summoners, normal. Double Ignites in mid lane. This should never... yeah, it should basically never be Ignite Anivia, because your job is just basically be a rock. If you're going to kill Sylas, you're going to kill Sylas whether you have Ignite or not if you play Anivia correctly, because it's such a one-sided matchup, it's insane. Anivia destroys, absolutely destroys the Sylas. It's not close. What's up, Mumu? Does he reach out? Absolutely I do. I also leave my mic on. Normal. I really do like the cleanse, especially versus the Anivia and the Swain, so that way you can get out before Swain gets the yoink off. So if Swain doesn't get the yoink off, he's not going to land the W off. Hi. Why noob? Me or who? This is standard. This is standard. Actually, should this be exhaust? Yes, it should be exhaust because everybody's coming in, and for the Draven as well. So, Mumu, what's happening right now is I helped run the Ohio University tryouts, so this is one of the 2 games that was running. So I have a total of 16 games I need to go over. This is match 2, game 2, so this is the lower elo section. Because if people are willing to give me their time, I'm willing to give them mine. Fair is fair. So I want to give back information. So that's what this is. So this is like silverish average, I think. No, I don't like Swain support in general, but it's what he plays. So we do have to pick champions around what they go with. So why troll draft? Because people don't play things. That's just the reality. We have this kind of an elo, you have to put in things. What's up, man? Okay, change player. Not how this works. Nope. I see you be one trick pony. Because realistically, right, we want tryouts to be as open as possible, where it's like, okay, for this, everybody can try out, because it's not like, okay, we have 5 GM players, you're in. We're just working with that and working through. We want everybody to try out, and the director especially wanted everybody to have a fair shot. So, here we are. That's Momo, yeah. Momo, that's my roommate. That's Mike. So yeah, we want everybody to have a fair shot, to be able to showcase what they can do. And also, those things. No. So, Momo, the way I hold tryouts is I don't let them pick their own champions. For most games. The reasoning for that is, realistically, no one knows how to draft. It's atrocious. So with that, what's up, Kevin? So with that, whichever player is going to be at the top, so it's always top lane because LCS order, they're always going to be at an innate disadvantage, because anytime they say, hey, do you want me to pick anything for anyone? Everybody's just going to say no, because they want to make themselves look good. Because that's the entire purpose of a tryout. So you just end up picking top to bottom, and then top laner is always counterpicked, mid laner is always counterpicked, and it becomes miserable, right? And it becomes artificial things. On top of that as well, we create drafts in a way to be able to showcase very specific things. Like, we want to see, okay, does this player know how to play around these situations? Do these players understand how to play around this type of a thematic in the draft, right? That way we can create specific scenarios. Much, much better. And then there are games later on where it's like, hey, draft for yourselves, let's see what happens. So in this case, when we allowed the players to draft for themselves, blue side was first picked Darius. That's what I kind of mean. So, in this, it was already predetermined champions, where we look at the OPIGG, see what they have. And there were also players that played in this that literally only played 2 champions, and we were afraid to be able to pick them other things, because we didn't know if they owned the champions or not. That was a legitimate problem when determining who played what. So, kind of take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. So, what we did for the lower tier games to be able to kind of showcase things is basically we made smack face comp versus counter engage comp consistently. That way we could state, okay, if red side wins early game, something is inherently wrong. We can look back and see what that was. If blue side wins the entire game, something went wrong. Let's look to see what that is. So we could see if there were any, like, outliers. Because realistically, if we're looking for the varsity team in particular, the lower tier game was not there to be able to state, yeah, you have a high potential to make varsity. This was, can you showcase me that you are an oddity? That for some reason a gold player can deal with a diamond player and function. Maybe it's they didn't play enough ranked games previously. Maybe it's they played ranked at the beginning of the season, then took 6 months to learn the game correctly. Things along the lines of that. These games were just to look for oddities. Or because it's season 12, yeah, same problem. So also, because this is now the fourth game I'm going over? Yeah. The majority of the information I had was in game 1. And I have the VODs up on YouTube for people to be able to look back. So these start going a lot faster. I think for game 1, I got through the first 16 minutes of play for all lanes, and it took me 5.5 hours to explain everything. It was like half the information I wanted to go over. So now I'm kind of just skimming through stuff because all the information, or like the majority of it, is previously there. If I need to explain something more in depth, I explain something more in depth kind of thing. So that's what we're currently doing. Just giving back information. All right. I gotta get going or else I will continue to talk about this. So, similar concept to the previous games, those were the runes. What we want to actively see for where we want to play around is realistically blue side should be playing around bot lane to be able to attack with the Draven to get him hyper accelerated, because if we bring up a J4 plus a Kali into an Alawi, you now have 2 caskets instead of 1 and depression. You really don't want to be able to do that, especially if Kindred has the ability to come up. All right. Because the Alawi should always be on the front foot. Kindred has the ability to lane gank and make his life a living hell, along with if Alawi has pressure, Kindred will also invade, right? So now if we start on the bot side pathing up top, well, then we get invaded here and we're screwed, because there's no way for a Kali to be able to match the wave clear of Alawi at basically any point in time in the game, because Alawi does Alawi things, right? And again, on the flip side, if we're looking for what can actually potentially win the game, it's very, very hard for a Kali to ever be able to actually cause a win condition in this game when Swain will be building Zonias at some point in time. Xayah has ultimate, Anivia is Anivia, let's just be realistic about that. Kindred has ultimate, and Alawi is Alawi. Right. So Akali doesn't have the ability to realistically become a win condition unless she finds fantastic flanks, plays her on cooldowns incredibly heavily, or is hyper accelerated. But again, versus an Alawi, the hyper acceleration shouldn't exist. So we want to be able to path towards bot lane. Secondary on the other side with the Kindred, realistically, we have an Alawi who is going to poke the ever-loving shit out of the Akali. If Alawi gets big versus a melee, very, very close range, and something that dives in, granted you can go back out, you're going to have a good time. On the flip side as well, if the Kindred wants to look towards bot lane and try to attack a Draven plus a Rakan, it's possible, but incredibly difficult, especially since we have a Swain support, which again, Swain doesn't offer much value. Swain just kind of exists, especially early on, right? So especially when Draven and Rakan are going to have the push on Xayah plus Swain, it becomes very, very hard to want to path towards bottom when your bot lane's always on back foot. So we want to be able to path top here. We want to be able to path bot here. Logics. All right. So first off, let's see who leaves base late. Point defense it. Show me. Show me we know point defense. What you doing? What you doing? Why are we all just here grouped? Okay. Point defense, real quick again. AD carrier support, AD carrier support, mid laner, jungler, top laner. There are things to be able to vary this, but I already talked about it previously. Flip side as well. Top laner, jungler, not there. Sorry, bad ping. Top laner, jungler, mid laner. AD carrier support, AD carrier support. Generally, supports are going to be standing here because generally fights happen around this general area unless you know for a fact an invade is going to happen. If you know an invade is going to happen, most of them come through this way and come through this way. So, if you think an invade is not going to happen, most fights will be occurring up here, especially around both junglers, so it's better to have the support level 1 comparatively to the AD carry level 1. Red side wins, they have more birds. True. Except for this is a bird. Swain will always be a bird to me. Oh, wait, no, you said red side. Yes. Always more birds. If you think you're going to get invaded and people come through here, it's better to have the support down here and the AD carry up here, because if they decide to turn this corner and they decide to burn flash here, so they walk down here, they hug this wall, they come up. If you're in the correct position, you're noticing them here. If they decide to flash hook, you're going to guaranteed flash. It's better to use the supports flash than the AD carry flash, because the AD carry is going to have to farm. The AD carry is forced to play much, much more forward comparatively to the support. So that's the time where you want to swap. The fact that we're 4 stacking is kind of weird. This ward sucks. This ward needs to be in the corner. Speeding up. And we're kind of just waiting here. So, already recognizing we're starting at the wrong side because we're pathing up. Where is Kindred? Kindred is also starting at the wrong side, pathing down. Okay, so both junglers started incorrectly. That is slightly unfortunate. Are there any oddities in item buys? Yes. So, realistically versus Swain Xayah, are we worried about being one-shot? Probably. I think that's the only way to kill you. So this is fine. This is fine because you're against a Draven. You realistically just don't want to be one-shot. Having multiple potions doesn't change that fact. If Rakan knocks you up, it's going to be a one-shot. Normal, 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 normal. This is really, really bad due to the fact of Alawi is very, very pokey as a champion. So similar concept to what I talked about with the Vlad in previous games. If you're going to start with Darkseal, you're basically telling me that you're going to get a kill pre-first reset. If that is not the case, you can pick up Darkseal on your first reset, and you're still going to have it by the time you start fighting. So if you're going to be pushed in all game, you're going to be abused really, really heavily. It's going to be a lot of poke. This is D-Shield. This is not Darkseal. Darkseal does not make sense. All right, to top lane. Let's see what we got. So, both sides know exactly where the opposing jungler started. Lane showed first, lane showed first, lane showed late, lane showed late. Everything's super, super standard here. So now the Alawi's magically on the back foot when Alawi has no business to. On top of the fact Alawi doesn't have good tentacle spawn. So Alawi hates leashing with a burning passion because she needs time to be able to set up and defend her tentacles. So the way Alawi tentacles works are starting from the beginning of the game, you should already be setting up tentacles. So the fact that we're in this bush waiting inherently wastes 1 tentacle spawn. And the way you want to spawn the tentacles is they can spawn at very, very specific points, but they cannot be within a certain range of each other, right? So, for instance, if you have this tentacle, you cannot have this tentacle. If you have this tentacle, you cannot have this tentacle or this tentacle. If you have this tentacle, you can't have these two, so on and so forth. They cannot be next to each other. Mr. Making Varsity, how much is the factor of rank play in that decision? Sort of. So, the way I love to think about ranked is it's a baseline value for where you play. It is not guaranteed whatsoever. Because a lot of players can be their rank for different reasons. They can AFK push constantly and just die to jungler on repeat, but then the opponents don't know how to play around split push. So eventually it just wins. But you have a 0.5 KDA with 8 farm a minute and you're winning games. I could not care less about you as a player. But also on the flip side, everybody else in the world cares about your rank, especially when it comes to scrim partners. So for instance, if we have a team of 4 diamonds and 1 plat, all diamond teams will not scrim us. Because they see it as a waste of time. They see it as a 4v5. So rank does have some factor, but it's purely for the fact of, like, who are we scrimming against? That's it. And similar concept, once we get going and we do have a varsity team, all the varsity players are forced to play a minimum number of ranked games per week to be able to improve their rank. Because we need to improve our ranks to be in order to get better scrims. You get better scrims, you start facing better players. You start facing better players, you have more ability to improve. So, yes and no is the answer. Definitely not the final decision, but it's something that's more of a minor factor. Alright, so with Alawi, anyways, you want to immediately start spawning your tentacles. So you want to go into point defense, and a couple seconds before your tentacle were to spawn, you would walk up, and then first tentacle should be here or here. Right? Then Go back to what you were doing a couple seconds before, walk up. Next tackle should be here or here. So that way you have here and here, or you have here and here. Third tackle that spawns should be here. That way you have a backup just in case you screw up. This is why Alawi does not like leashing, because tackles need to be spawned in a specific way in order to be able to play the game. Similar concept in mid lane when you play mid lane Alawi. Mid lane Alawi loves tackle here, 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 and here. Tackles can spawn here, tackles can spawn here, or tackles can spawn here for each of the pillars. These two are atrocious because it completely ruins what you're trying to achieve. If you have all the tackles in the middle instead of facing one side, this right here, the middle of the lane, is actually in all 4 tackles range. And there's no way in hell for anyone to move you from that spot. So they're forced to be able to attack a side tackle to be able to clear it so that you can, or so that they can walk forward, right? And generally they're clearing back tackles and not clearing front tentacles, right? Let's say it's blue side Alawi instead of red side Alawi, right? So they'll clear these 2 tackles. During the time frame, Alawi clears the wave, starts pushing up. During the time she's pushing up, she gets the 3rd tentacle up after the 2 are cleared. And then by the time it starts pushing back in, 4th tentacle is ready to go. So all 4 tentacles continue going if they only clear the 2 tentacles, and you always have the 2 to be able to fall back towards. And then if you ever have full advantage, you have full 4 tentacles to spawn, it's impossible for you to be ganked. Besides by ranged junglers. Tentacle spawns mean everything to this champion. Absolutely everything. Cannot sacrifice them. Excuse me. Also, by the way, I love reading chat because at a tryout, realistically, this should be the most professional you ever are. So I've talked about this before. So when I read the chat and I see things that are not professional, that also tells me, okay, how are you going to act in scrims? How are you going to act at tournaments? How are you going to act at LANs? When I tell you, hey, this thing needs done, how seriously will you take it? So when I read this stuff, this is something I keep in mind. Similar concept to attitude while we were in person. Exactly the same thing. Something to always keep in mind. I keep track of all of those. I have notes for them. So anyways, now that we're in this kind of a state, normally Alawi want to be able to play aggressive on my brain is dying. The Akali, having her tentacles up, being able to defend them, playing forward, using her W to be able to cause extra damage plus slam, because auto plus W will always beat out Q. If at any point in time you have to play purely through Q in a lane, you're probably facing a ranged champion, not a melee, because Alawi's W is disgusting. A lot of people don't know that. It's actually fucking disgusting, because an auto reset that deals percent max life damage and causes tentacles to slam. So when you have tentacle here, this is double. And you can just clear waves or take fights that you're not supposed to be able to, and it's absurd. If they decide to go for one of your tentacles, you can just clear wave. Now they're forced to back off. Now you have prio, get your next tentacle in a forward position. Now you have tentacle here, you have tentacle here. So even if you're forced back like a gank comes, you have a safety net right here while always having your next farther forward. And the next time you spawn a tentacle, it goes here so that we can start abusing. Tentacle spawns mean everything to Alawi. I cannot stress that enough. So, Alawi realistically should be starting W and having tentacles. Starting Q is a joke. Starting Q only versus ranged matchups where you're forced back. So like versus Lucian, for instance, where you have no ability to function. All right. Next step. If we are going to go from red to blue, right, as the Kindred, this Alawi then should be walking into lane and then just AFK pushing, because you want to have some ability to be able to rotate. So the fact that we're walking into lane and being very casually and just chill during this is not actually a thing. That should not be occurring because we have no ability to rotate. If J4 decides to go for a 3 camp like he normally would, this entire play is fucked. If J4 started on his blue buff and Alawi can't rotate, but Kindred can and Sylas can, this play is fucked, because then you would go for the Gromp and it would just be a smite fight. And whoever wins the smite, awesome. You're most of the way to level 3. And then the Kindred gets collapsed on anyway, so it doesn't matter. So even if Kindred wins the smite fight, okay. You're still dead. Doesn't matter. So this invade doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. Right? And especially when neither lane is fully playing around it. So like similar concept. Sylas would want to be able to shove this. Right? But there's no shove occurring. Oh, sorry. Anivia wants to shove this. Sorry. Anivia wants to shove this. Alawi wants to shove this. But there's literally no shove occurring. We're just letting this happen. And especially when this is on a ward too. We'll talk about junglers after. We're on top lane now. I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. So anyways, Lanes we want to play around it, especially the Alawi. Alawi does not have good tackle spawns. This tackle spawn sucks. This tackle spawn should be up here, or preferably here. This tackle is much, much better because it's closer to the wave to be able to impact it. Again, also, we shouldn't have Q. We should have W. Because Q doesn't actually do anything, has a really, really long cooldown. So, the second Alawi Qs, Akali should just be bomb rushing. Even after seeing Alawi has Q, that should be enough to bomb rush. Hey, look, there's the rotation. Super, super late, but there's the rotation. Doesn't work. And then Alawi doesn't have the ability to rotate first because, you know, didn't shove the wave. Didn't have the tackle spawned right, didn't take the right ability level 1. And now Alawi with W is just magically starting to fight the Akali. Even though she's on the back foot. Tentacles were not in assistance when it's all the way over here. Right? And we have W. We're not even using Q. So why is it that the second we get W, we're willing to fight on the back foot, but we're not willing to fight on the back foot with Q? Oh, maybe we should have taken W level 1 then. We've already proven we have that playstyle. This is fine. So this realistically wants to be crash. Crash into dive. Crash into dive. Or not crash into dive. Sorry. Crash into escape. Because keep in mind, we knew for a fact that J4 was top, right? Everybody rotated to be able to defend the camp. Red side actively saw J4. So if red side actively saw J4, if we're going to keep AFK pushing, it better be because we're trying to crash and bail. If we're not trying to AFK push, right? Because we see the J4 right now. We know for a fact where he is because we just got forced off, right? AFK pushing becomes the worst thing in the world because we already know J4 is top lane. If we already know J4 is top lane, you can be ganked very easily. So unless you can crash pretty much instantaneously, this is terrible to do. That's really important to note. Because similar concept to the other games, no lane seems to be playing around junglers except for the one top laner. No one else seems to be doing it in any game, in any role. No one's freezing. No one's setting up the waves for dives or for, like, a freeze to be able to allow your jungler to gank. No lane is playing around what the opposing jungler can do. And just literally, we go. Ah, if that E-lands. If that E-lands, this could potentially be a fight. So it also, as a side note, you're not allowed to flash up until J4 EQs. Because if you flash before J4 EQs, you're dead regardless. So you might as well just not burn your summoners. Because there is no salvaging this. Yep. So this is all caused by we knew where the jungler was. We knew exactly what they were doing because we even rotated down to be able to see him. And we AFK pushed anyways. Same problem. Same exact problem we've seen in the other games. So there's no point in going over it fully. Mostly want to talk about the tackle spawns. Good tackle spawn. You can technically have it here, but if you don't have bush control, it's bad to have it here. So this tackle spawn is better. There we go. We also have freeze. If we have freeze, let's freeze with a purpose. Let's try to do something with it. Let's try to abuse the opponent. Let's try to make them miss farm. Let's set up our jungler for a gank, but there's no junglers nearby whatsoever. And we haven't denied any farm. Because the Akali's been allowed to touch the wave regardless, because we didn't attack the Akali at all. Right? We're also not strong enough to just say, if you touch this wave, you die. So we can't deny anything. Our jungler's nowhere near. So basically, we held this freeze, and then we broke the freeze by just AFK pushing it at the cost of 2 potions. We basically burned 2 potions for nothing. So if we're going to freeze, freeze with a purpose. Do something with it. Don't just freeze just to stay like, hey, I have this. Do it to stay safe. Do it to set up a jungle gank. Do it to abuse your opponent so that they lose farm. Do it so that you can kill your opponent because they're forced to walk up really far in the lane. Do it for a purpose. That's hilarious. So remember that those nice spawns, right? Let's zoom this in real quick. This is super important. So this tackle should be here. This is a bad tackle. This tackle should be here. This is a bad tackle. This tackle has the potential to be here. But this one was fine in context. So if we have tackle here, these both get the slam on this, actually. Fun fact. That's unfortunate. That's a bad tackle spawn. But it was forced. The reason it's a bad tackle spawn is it's really easy for Akali to be able to clear it. There we go. So notice how close these can be as well. But it's like once you have one, it's stuck there. Which kind of sucks, but is what it is. Alright, so we end up getting the tackle spawn here, meaning nothing can spawn in this general vicinity. What's going on here? Why are we just invading again? God, I'm so excited to look over junglers and figure out what the fuck is going on. What is this? What are these invades? Okay. So let's think about this, right? If you're the Alawi and your jungler is invading, right? Or even any lane, right? If you just push the wave and your jungler is invading, your job is then to be able to go in with that invade, right? Because Akali is currently missing a large amount of farm to guarantee that this play doesn't work. Now, realistically, was that a good invade? No. No, that was pretty dumb. Because realistically, we're gambling that he doesn't have smite. We're gambling he's not done with this. Our lane doesn't have the ability to rotate immediately. This invade is bad. It doesn't make any sense to be able to do. And then Alawi recognizes what's happening way too late. So either it wasn't calmed or Alawi's not looking at minimap. Because realistically, we could tell what was happening by minimap. Yep. Then we just concede. Now, realistically, the death wasn't that bad because Akali missed a full wave of farm. Which is pretty valuable. Okay. This is inherently a slight problem as well. So if we're going to stay in this lane with no potions and low mana, it better be because we're just saying nope to them, right? We're literally stating, if you come at me, I will nuke you. But if you notice, by the time you complete one rotation of abilities, you're completely out of mana. You don't actually have the means to be able to create a clean lethal. If Akali didn't flash there, she still lives because she can just use Shroud for movement speed instead. Or she can just use Shroud so that you can't W her and you have to W the clone. And it's like, okay, she's fine. W and clone is still good, but in that context where you're about to run out of mana is bad. And keep in mind, the entire reason you're out of mana was the bad freeze right here. Speeding up. So I end up going for Caulfields plus Ruby Crystal. This is bad. So I can guarantee you're going Divine Sunder, which is fine. It's absolutely fine in this game. So if you're going for Divine Sunder, you definitely want Sheen, because Sheen has absurd value on Alawi, because Alawi has the second highest base attack damage in the entire game. She's only behind Megadar. She is the second best Sheen user in the entire game. From there as well, this is 1100, this is 1500, right? Do you have extra gold? Yeah, so we had 200 extra gold. So we had 1700 gold. So if you want to pick up double longsword, Sheen plus boots, that is infinitely a better recall. Because now you've gained 10 CDR, 10 CDR, 5 AD, and 150 life for an absurdly large amount of damage. The absurdly large amount of damage is infinitely better here because you're playing Alawi. As long as you land E, that's your entire purpose in life. You sit back, you play E, you don't actually interact with people. So there are much, much better buys. Caulfields is generally a trap item. It's okay, but in the early game, how much does 10 ability haste really give you? And then also, you're paying so much more. Like, it's literally 400 gold for an extra 5 AD compared to 350 for 10. So if you want raw damage output, it's literally just better to pick up 3 longswords. And notice how we're not actually interacting with Akali here. Which, by the way, as a side note, Akali has ult, Alawi doesn't have ult. That should just be an all-in by Akali. Especially with 4 Dark Steel stacks. So looking through, Alawi's just AFK pushing. We have no wards, no safety. No nothing. We're just playing all the way up. Now granted, you're Alawi with ultimate. So as long as you land E on J4 when he EQs in, you should be able to 2v1. Oh, bad tentacle spawn. Bad tentacle spawn. That's why you can't kill this cleanly. It seems like the biggest problem with Alawi here is just bad tentacle spawns. We don't know that... It doesn't seem like we're thinking about where the tentacles spawn. We're just thinking we have tentacle kind of thing. And then again, it's just AFK shove after AFK shove after AFK shove. But again, you're Alawi, so... Doesn't exactly matter. If you land E, you're going to win. If you miss E, you're going to lose. But versus J4, you have a guaranteed way to land E. So, Alawi is generally one of the few champions where it's like, okay, you can justify AFK pushing. So similar concept to what I talked about previously, you're greeting for a second plate. When you greed for a second plate, Akali has the ability to come in and then crash the wave, so then you don't actually have the ability to freeze. So you're choosing 160 gold over top of a freeze. 160 gold over top of the freeze. Rather have the freeze generally, because freeze will be worth more. Unless it changes your purchase. So you have 125 gold here. So you just wouldn't have been able to pick up tier 1 boots. Still would have been able to pick up Null Magic Mantle. Still would have been able to pick up Divine Sunder. It's fine. Yeah, we chose that over the freeze. Freeze has infinitely more value because now we're just back to AFK pushing. Instead of denying Akali things, being able to punish her more. There we go. I don't think that instant slams. Yeah. Now Akali's just chunked up. So, super, super important thing about top lane in particular. This goes for all lanes, but top lane in particular, this is the most important for. Minions push differently based on level discrepancy in the game. And based off of turret discrepancy in an individual lane. So once you kill this turret, minions will continuously push towards him up until he takes your turret, basically. That's not great, because then how do you punish him? Basically, you're forced to then state, I am shoving. Okay? And then I have to hit this tier 2, which is very hard to do because everybody can rotate on you very easily. Or I have to push the wave and then go make a play. But once you push the wave, everybody here should just say, nah, I don't want to do anything. Just wait. And especially when you're on the Lowy, it's really hard to push your tempo in that regard. So leaving up this turret is generally a good thing for as long as possible. The exception of that is you can state, okay, at 14, I want to finish the turret to be able to get the plate and the extra gold. I am so accelerated, I'm going to take it into a team fight that will have relevancy. So we have Dragon literally 4 minutes. We have Herald up now, so you can take this turret and basically state, I'm going to use that additional 160 gold that I can get right now to be able to recall, come back, and fight the Herald. If that's not the argument, we leave the turret up. Because now Akali gets to farm. And this is generally when top laners start coming back into the game. Because then all of a sudden now, he just pushes this wave and just leaves. He just fucks off. And the waves will always keep pushing this way, so he'll always be able to get farm. He can't be denied nearly as easily. You can do it, but you have to hold a super large amount of minions here. Then on top of that as well, because the wave is always pushing this way, this top laner will naturally lose more. Because the red side minions are killing the blue side minions faster, so as you're walking back, more of the blue side minions are dying. So you actually starve yourself out as well by doing this. Because also, if you just AFK push and AFK push and AFK push and you accomplish nothing, then you're just stalling out the game. The longer the game goes, the less gold matters. Where are we TPing to? That's a sexy TP. Goodbye, sir. Beautiful. Here's the thing, though. We could have done that whether or not this turret was up or not. Didn't matter. Now, all of a sudden, the Akali that was down, what? It was like 60 to 120. They were down 60 farm. They're now down 40. And the lead's just going to keep closing and closing and closing and closing. And it happens every time. Every time. Because there's nothing that the Akali has to do. She just has to chill. And it's on the Alawi's job to be able to push the lead really, really heavily. And when she pushes the lead like this, this should be a collapse. You can collapse on this. But again, it's Alawi versus a bunch of melees, so the job kind of writes itself. Yeah. If you're any other champion, this playstyle doesn't work. As a side note, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. It's only working because you're hyper accelerated on Alawi. You had chances to die. You didn't die. You're hyper accelerated. It happens. Excuse me. So, it's not much more to be able to take away from this game. Biggest thing by far, learn the tackle spawn placements, like where they can actually spawn. You can look up like a guide for it, or like just Google image search kind of thing, and there will guaranteed be a Summoner's Rift map where it shows all the spawns. And then get used to setting up your tentacles in a correct spot. So watch your passive tick down. And when your passive's about to finish, get as close to a good spot for your tentacle as possible. Alright, Akali time real quick. So realistically, with the Akali versus the Alawi, we want to be able to punish this really, really heavily. So we miss space Q. That's okay. We should be queuing. We should be queuing. We should be queuing. We should be queuing. We're really, really passive here. Really, really passive. And then also realistically as well, once we get that Q on the Alawi, Q into the backstep, we should be running directly at the Alawi because the Alawi's already burned her Q. She's already shown she has the wrong ability. Okay. We want to get that extra damage off while Alawi has the wrong ability. And then also as well, let's back this up. If we're going to be level 2 to level 1 as well, you really, really, really want to fight. Level 2 to level 1 is massive. We should not be backstepping here. We should be going forward. We should be looking to abuse. We should be taking this as much as possible with either using Shroud to be able to get our energy back to get another Q off if we want to poke more, or we should be going forward to be able to land an E, because right here, if it's level 2 to level 1 and you have a Q up, you should be able to run directly at the Alawi and just half-shot her. You can half-shot Alawi right here. Yeah, you have E. So all you have to do is run at her, auto-attack, E backwards, take E, second auto-attack. She's half-life. And what does she do about it? Auto-attack you once? That's it. That's all she can do, because she has the wrong ability. It's not too long of a cooldown. But we're way, way, way too passive with using the auto-attack. It's a similar concept to the last VOD I did with the Zoe, where Zoe just didn't use the passive auto-attacks whatsoever. Rotation is fine to be able to defend. That's correct. But again, Alawi should already be punished by now. So this is also where I love to talk about these games, because in every single lane, in no world is the opposing laner good enough at any point in time, even up to Challenger, so that they make absolutely zero mistakes. In every lane, even in the worst possible lanes, your opponent is going to make mistakes that allow you to capitalize on it. Every time. Every time. Doesn't exist otherwise. No one's fucking good enough in solo queue to be able to do that. Right? Even up to the pro level, people make fucking constant mistakes that can be punished. It's insane. So in this context, right, that level 2 spike was how Akali got ahead of the Alawi. Because that was not taken, it goes back to the whole neutral state of, well, Alawi outshoves Akali. And then also can land E on Akali. Doesn't matter if you shroud at that point, you're still kind of fucked. So basically, you're still forced to use E to be able to dodge the Alawi E. And then you can decide if you want to go in on that from there. And then you have a lot of mobility to be able to deal with the Alawi ult. You can also stop her Ws because of your shroud. And with the rotation as well, you end up losing a minion of XP, which that kind of sucks. But you had a way to be able to punish the Alawi really, really hard. We just didn't take it. That's important to note, because then when we go throughout the rest of this game as well, we have to keep that in the back of our minds of, you had the win con. You had some way to be able to deal with it, and we didn't take it. Right. And especially once we do kill the Alawi here, realistically, Court should then assist you with being able to push this out. We play, so that we get the wave crash, you get the reset off, you go home. You pick up whatever you're going to pick up. I don't know your gold. I'll see it after the wave. And then you're good to go. And then from there, you start abusing the Alawi, where you space out the Qs, you make sure she can't land an E on you. When she misses her E, you try to all in. Oh, that's super buggy. Oh, no. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so you have 1100 gold. So you can pick up, where do we go here? This game's probably a proto belt game, because you have to find access on backline incredibly quickly. Plus, proto belt allows you to dodge one out of every 3 Alawi-Es. So if you dodge one with E, dodge one with proto belt, then it's only 1 out of every 3 that has the ability to hit you. This is going to be a proto belt game super, super easily. So yeah, you would be able to pick up Alternator on reset. But because Court didn't help you, whether because you didn't recognize it or not, or because Court didn't recognize it or not, generally one of you two would say, like, hey, I need assistance pushing kind of thing. We end up running into this state, where again, we really want to reset. So we run into the same issue as everybody else in all of the games of we don't know when to reset to be able to actually abuse an advantage. Because I love talking about economy. So again, health is a resource, mana is a resource, in this case energy is a resource, wave state's a resource, cooldowns are a resource, right? Everything is actively a resource, right? Even items are a resource. So if you come back and you have Alternator, full refill potion, plus Dark Seal versus Corrupting Potion and Longsword, even if this Corrupting Potion is full, your economy is so much better than the opponents, you should just destroy them at that point. Even if you're in a losing matchup, you have such a huge advantage. Take it. Run away with it. You have that potential. Right? But because we're not resetting, we're actually lower in economy than the opponent. Because we're not spending our gold. Because we're not resetting when we need to. Right? And the times to be able to reset are whenever you crash the wave. Right? You have the option to be able to reset most of the time. Whether or not you can get back in lane in time to be able to freeze, that's a separate conversation. But if you have 1100 gold and you're still sitting in lane and you're not pushing a wave to be able to reset, or clearing a wave back here to be able to reset, something is inherently wrong at this level. Right? Because we're sitting here over the extended period of time, not really poking, not really all-inning, right? Just barely doing little mini things. We're not using Akali passive whatsoever. Not using E to be able to dodge her E. We're not doing anything. We're just existing, right? And if you just exist versus Alawi, you lose. Because she will sit back, she will wait there, and she's going to be like, all right, I'm going to rend your soul. Oh, that missed? All right, let me wait 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to rend your soul. Oh, that missed? All right, I'm going to wait 10 seconds. All right, I'm going to rend your soul. Oh, that hit? Half your life is gone. And your life is annoying. You cannot sit back versus specific champions, just like how I talk about with Aatrox, where it's a 14-second Q cooldown from the last time he cast it. Punish it. Victor lasers you. And everybody gets spooked in mid lane. Punish it. That's his wave clear. Attack the wave. He can't attack the wave anymore. Things along the lines of that. We cannot just sit back and exist. And that's generally going to be lower elo players' biggest problems. But we're even seeing in some other roles, like especially support, where they just sit back and aren't doing anything, right? So with this, the best advice I can give you for the Akali is you have to learn how to fight. You have to get in there. You have to see what your damage capabilities can be. You have to use every resource of the kit. Right? The fact that we're just poking with Q is the same problem that we saw with Gangplank just poking with Qs. It's the same problem that we saw with Zoe just poking with Qs. It's the same problem that we saw with Zed just poking with the EWQ combo. It's exactly the same problem. where you're thinking about these kits as very, very one-dimensional of, I have this poke pattern, let me do it until I win. And that's not how the game is played. Because you have so much more to the kit, you have so much bigger lethals than that. And on top of that as well, excuse me. My brain just died with the cough. Oh no, that's a problem. What was I going to say? So you have so much, or you have so many more lethals than that. There's so much more you can do with the kit. There was a third thing, but I can't remember it. So I'm going to have to skip over it. Basically, start fighting. Start utilizing everything about the kit. If you have to look up a small guide on the champion, the guide's probably going to be like 80% correct for the most part. There's going to be a lot of stuff wrong with it. But if they're telling you like, hey, here's how to trade on Akali, again, it's probably going to be like 80% correct. And there are some circumstances on Akali where you should sit back, spam Qs, relax. Those absolutely do exist, but this is not a level in which people are making so few mistakes that that's the style you have to pick up. Everybody's making constant mistakes, punish it. And especially the level 2 spike. Level 2 spike is massive, punish that. Cooldowns versus no cooldowns, punish it. Utilizing your kit to the fullest potential. You gotta push all the buttons, you can't just push one for one style. Not how the game works. Oh, that was my last thing. If you decide to play one style with only basically playing around one ability, the second you face a smart opponent that states, I'm going to clear the wave and I'm just going to fuck off, you're not killing me. I'm just going to play for items. You lose. You instantaneously lose the game. And that's very, very important to be able to note. So when we're speeding through this, it's just the same playstyle over and over and over, basically. You're going to get shoved in. You're not going to push anything to be able to fight back versus her. And by the time you do have the capability to fight back, like now here's your first reset. This is the first reset at 7.5 minutes. You're already down 20 farm because you took a bad reset, right? Then you got abused. Then you ended up buying less or significantly less power than you could have had. So this is 1,100 gold. This is 850, right? Swap this up for an alternator. You have infinitely more power than Sork Boots. Excuse me. Because realistically, Sork Boots don't do anything versus Alawi because she's coming into you and you're coming into her. If you're trying to dodge Tankles, you can probably dodge Tankles regardless. Trying to dodge her E, you can dodge her E with your E. Pretty simple. You don't actually need boots, so it's better to have the raw power to be able to fight it. And again, when you have a massive economy advantage where you would have alternator here instead of the boots, you can just all in her. So you have to start playing like your solo queue game, not your solo queue games, please don't hit your solo queue games, your normal games with a thought process of, I want to fight. I want to see what my champion can actually do. And you have to basically int yourself. You're going to throw games. You're going to die a lot. And that's okay. But you have to get into a state where you actually fight and you actually do something in order for you to learn how to play the game. You have to interact with the opponents. Because right now you're sitting back and you're just existing. That's what I'm seeing. Alright. Jungler time. So, Court, you're already starting on the wrong side of the map. You're pathing into an Alawi. Congratulations, you should die. J4 can 6 camp only if you're absolutely perfect, and that can be a 315 clear. Very, very specific. Very, very specific. But J4 is normally a ganking jungler, right? On top of that as well, Kindred is a jungler that loves to invade. She loves to get in people's faces. She hard counters J4 because she shows up at J4's camps, and J4 is not allowed to flag and drag, because if he does, Kindred dashes, and then you're screwed. So J4 can never fight the Kindred, so why wouldn't Kindred just be in her face? Right? Or in his face. So with that kind of a context, right? Excuse me. You have to be able to 3-camp, and you have to go buff to buff. Because you cannot afford to lose any of your camps, and you have to match the gank timers of Kindred. You have to be accelerated. If you decide to just play a farming jungler, she will out-farm you. Again, unless you're absolutely perfect at J4. Then on top of that as well, if she decides to invade you while you're 6-camping, you're just screwed. So you're forced to 3-camp, or you're forced to have really defensive vision to be able to see everything. And the best way to be able to have really defensive vision is champions with dashes like Nidalee, Graves, J4, Kindred. If they're looking to invade you, they always go over the wall every time, because it's the shortest route to the buff. So place your ward here, and you get to see everything that's occurring. Similar concept, place your ward here. If you're on blue side and they're going from red over here, or from here to here, they will always go over this wall. Almost every time. Very rarely will they not, and they only won't if they know where your ward is. But more likely than not, they won't. So it basically has to be a 3 camp. So if we notice as well, we end up going red into Krugs, skipping our Raptors and going straight into blue side because we wanted to be able to full clear, but we see her. And again, you're not full clearing on J4. You have a Draven, you want him to be accelerated. You have a Akali, you want her to be accelerated. You have a Sylas, he wants to be accelerated. Everybody wants to be accelerated. It's not your job to farm. Not at all. Excuse me. So now we're desyncing camps slightly because we did the Krugs. So we leave these 2 camps up, but realistically we have to go now because this allows is just basically killing yourself. This is good to be able to skip camps to come up here. This is good. Then we ended up playing for this, and we got lucky on the coin flip. Fantastic. Problem. We went back to full clearing again. If we notice, this lane is incredibly volatile for either side, right? And especially when he just got chunked out right there. Turn around. This right now, the lane is pushing into Anivia. We know that both Skull Crabs are up, meaning that Kindred's probably in one of the 2 Skull Crabs. If you don't show up here, your laner dies. Because the wave is pushing away into Anivia. Anivia can just stun or can just wall to force out the dash. And we must show up to this. We don't have an option. So this death is as... Okay, he didn't die. He should have died. 100% should have died. If he dies, that death is as much on you as it is on the Sylas. Because Sylas could have dashed away, but then he still lost half of his life for nothing. So he really wants to be able to trade still. And then now the lane's just in a completely fuck state, and we are 100% ignoring it. Why are we recalling? There's a camp here, there's a camp here. Why are we recalling? Finish the clear down. We're now pathing bot. You actually had the correct pathing now. So where are we resetting to? We're resetting to... So we're resetting to Krugs, and then we take this, but then this is the next camp, and then this is the next camp. So we're completely desyncing everything, and now our clear is going to be super, super slow. And if we just power clear, I'm going to skip forward. Okay, so we end up invading red because you died. Alright, this is something. We still fucked our camp spawns. 2 has prio. So Alawi has no mana. Alawi can't rotate realistically, even though your lane is shoved in. Sylas has pseudo prio. Sylas realistically wants to be able to crash this wave. If this play goes wrong, you've taken the Sylas out of the game single-handedly. Twice now. If this play goes wrong at all. Okay. It's close. Oh! Egg? Egg. Now this is still frozen. Anivia's full life. That invade completely... Like, Sylas is out of the game. We didn't assist him here when the lane state was bad. We didn't assist him previously when we were doing Skullcrab and the lane state was bad. We have to start looking at lanes. We cannot ignore lanes. Whether your lanes are winning or supposed to be winning, supposed to be losing, it doesn't matter. We have to look at lane states because also the human element always comes into play. People are dumb. People make mistakes on both sides. So if your lane is losing in a bad state, even if they shouldn't be, you have to go help them. That's literally your job. It's the way I described it last time was, if you're a janitor and there is shit on the floor in the bathroom, you are still cleaning up the shit on the floor in the bathroom. It doesn't matter that's not supposed to be there. It is still your job to clean it up. You can yell at the person as well for shitting on the floor, but you can also yell at the janitor for not cleaning up the shit off the floor. Works both ways. So now we're going back to full clearing again. And there is... Why are we skipping wolves? If we're full clearing, why are we skipping wolves? What are we doing? Okay. So I know you know how to full clear. So if you're pathing this way, and then you're just skipping wolves to be able to go to Gromp, and then you're skipping... Is the argument for Kindred Mark? Is that the entire argument? Also, why is this being funky with me? I'll backspace twice. Okay. So we ping it to be able to go look for it. But it just spawned this second. Okay. So if you check to see if she's not on it, clear your camps correctly. Don't just magically go for this. Because if you track where the jungler is, she just doesn't have any reason to be up here the instantaneous second that it spawns. And on top of that, your Sylas is dead anyway. So if Kindred's showing up to that, Kindred's showing up to that. Because did we skip helping mid lane again? Did we see that? No, we didn't. Okay. Yeah, wait. So this wave is pushing out. He's literally one hit. Go help your fucking lane. Stop. Stop just power clearing. You cannot just power clear in a competitive sense. Does not work anymore. Especially when you're on a pure ganking jungler. This is why you didn't get accelerated. We pathed towards the wrong lane. We skipped multiple camps. We desynced our camps. We're then playing power farming J4. When we have to be accelerated. We have not helped mid lane 3 times where we had the option to help mid lane 3 times. All in very bad lane states. Now granted again, caused by him. But you still have to fix it. Everything is so wonky. We're literally just playing Lilia, but it's J4. And you can't do that. That is not an option. Okay, so the rest of this is probably going to be full clearing, so I'm just going to skip through. Doesn't serve a purpose anymore. Alright. Kindred. Pathing towards the wrong lane, but we're wanting to vertical this, so it's like, it's not the worst, but lanes have to understand how to vertical, and then also you probably don't want Alawi to leash if you want to vertical, so Alawi can actually shove the wave. Then, okay, just watch the patience meter. There's no reason to let this reset. Okay. Oh, it's almost 1 o'clock? That's fine. Yeah. So realistically as well, if you're going to reset this, what you do is you dash into the wall slightly diagonally, so you can't go over it. So, like, for instance, it would be, like, right here-ish to be able to do it. But we're way, way, way too far back. Because realistically as well, this becomes inherently a problem. Because if you notice, you can't see around the corner. So if J4 sees his blue isn't here, but on the minimap it shows his blue is still up, it's in one of 2 spots. It's either here or it's here. So if you can't see J4, but he knows it's here, he just flag and drags over the wall and you're fucked. So it's really, really bad to be able to pull it back like this. As long as people have attention spans. Okay, and that resets within there. So now we're running straight to our blue side when, in all reality, like, if that gets seen in any way, then J4 can just go into your red side and start taking your shit. Now he will absolutely take your shit. So end up being a top lane gang instead. Why are we... Just take Skullcrab. Just take Skullcrab. So, there's no reason to skip the Skullcrab when you're going back to your camps because you've already lost opposite Skullcrab because we know J4 is top side, right? So let's take this and then path back up top to be able to assist your Alawi, the lane that actually requires assistance. Both junglers path towards the wrong lanes. So what do? We go Gromp into... Yeah, so if we're going Gromp into Skullcrab, just do Scuttle into Gromp because 1, you're already there. 2, Skullcrab is the more contested camp. Right? So you always want to do the more contested camp first. And that turns out mid just ints. So we missed an auto attack there, I believe. Let me double check. Because there's no way that Sylas should be alive here. Not a chance. So Nivea should continuously kite forward. You should press W, and then this is a bad cue. This should be over the wall. So keep walking forward. So keep walking forward, and then dash this wall to be able to close the gap. That gets you closer to him. Because he already burned double dashes. He just has flash left. If he's going to flash, he's going to flash. So now all of a sudden you can be here when he flashes, which is infinitely better. So we get the slow off, we flash. Yeah, we 100% missed an auto. So because we missed that auto, we could have gotten 2 autos off plus the Q being able to hit because you can go sideways here and then get to about here to be able to get out of turret aggro. So you had the option to be able to kill him. It was just misplayed. But we still haven't gotten Skullcrab yet. So this is something I love to talk about as well. Because this is the most coin flip gameplay I've seen in an incredibly long time. And the reason I say it's coin flip is because you have 12 farm at 4.5 minutes. That is absurdly low. And you can make the argument that, oh, my invade didn't work. Well, if your invade works, you're at 16 farm. That's still really bad. Because to put into perspective, the majority of junglers that are actually good, like champion-wise, where they don't have to be a pure counter pick, finish their clear around 310 to 315 6 camp, which is 24 farm. So you're down 8 farm to any average jungler. Even if your invade works... Oh, no, sorry. That was if your invade worked. Yeah, you'd be down 8 farm. If your invade doesn't work, well, then you're just out of the game. Because you're way too far behind. You start getting invaded on repeat. Life sucks. Your gameplay is incredibly coin flip. Just kind of, like, you're not trying to clear your camps. You're just trying to murder everything constantly. You're trying to get in people's faces constantly. But you have to have an economy. It's equivalent to a laner deciding to state, hey, I am going to trade constantly in my lane and ignore farm. Well, it's either you killed your opponent or you're so far behind you don't get to play the game anymore. That's basically what the style is. And similar concept to what I've talked about in previous jungle sections, you want to kite from one side of the map to the other to continuously attack a point, right? So you always attack mid lane plus a point, whether it's top or bottom, one of the two. If you try to attack all three, then they constantly have resources up to be able to deal with you, and life becomes very, very hard. Right? Then also when you try to attack all three, you don't have time to be able to farm, which you have to farm. There are some champions that don't. Those are called shit champions, or Rek'Sai, Elise. Things that fall off the face of the planet very quickly. Ganking junglers. Right? So with this, now we want to be able to state, okay, we still want a path from one side of the map to the other unless there's a specific circumstance that states otherwise. You have to have a predetermined plan from the second you touch this camp stating, I will take this camp plus this camp, and then there will be a play top or in this river that I need to be at. If that is not the exact argument you have, just clear from one side of the map to the other. Because also, if the argument is, I want to go from here into our blue side to be able to gank bottom, well, then why didn't we just go blue side down? Or why didn't we just take the time to do one additional camp? Because more likely than not, you have time to do one additional camp unless, again, you have that set circumstance of exact timers. But you probably don't. So most of the time, it's better just to clear from one side of the map to the other. So then now when we're going for this camp, where do we path towards? Did we just magically skip wolves? Oh no, we wanted to invade again. Why? What knowledge do we have that would cause us to want to invade? So from the second you leave this base, you're basically stating I want to invade. Your top lane is currently being shoved in. Your mid lane is very low mana and does not want to take a fight. So why are we determining this is now invade time when our mid lane wants to recall incredibly badly? Your mid lane is just winning. Your top lane is just winning. Why are you making the game volatile? Why are you making the game hard? It's essentially like if you're a quarterback in football, right? And your running back is having a fucking amazing day. He is just demolishing the opponents. The opponents have no way to deal with them. And you're just like, you just walk up to him and tell him, no, I'm going to throw the ball. No, I'm going to throw the ball. That's what's going to happen. This is basically what's happening. You're stating, all right, I'm taking the entire game away from you. I'm going to hyper accelerate the opponents because I'm making a bad play. Because I don't want you to win the game. I don't want the game to be in your hands. I want the game to be in my hands. But that doesn't make sense. You're gambling whether or not the J4 has smite here. Your mid laner does not want to be here anymore. Your top laner has not finished shoving. There's no reason to make this invade. There's so much that can go wrong very, very quickly that it just becomes a massive problem. If you get hit by a J4 EQ, like he has it off cooldown when you turn this corner, because you even hit the Scryer's Bloom. He knows you're here. You gave away your entire invade right there. If J4 has EQ right here after you Q directly into his face, do you have flash? You don't have flash. You just die. If he has EQ here, you die. If he has smite here, you die. Because he jaws you to death. You have no help coming because neither lane wants to rotate to you. You have every way to die except for what occurred, and you could walk out right now. You have full option to walk out right now. But we choose to go back in, so you die for it. You have all the option in the world to walk out. You are the most coin flip player I've seen in a very, very long time. So, the best advice I can give you is to find a way to be consistent. The ways to be consistent are if you're going to invade, make sure you have prio in both adjacent lanes before you invade, and then ping you're going in so that they have the ability to start rotating with you. Now, all of a sudden, you have a squad here. Squad is infinitely better than one person. Second thing, figure out which side of the map you want to actively path towards and actively attack. Right? Because realistically, you can only attack 2 lanes. One of them has to be mid lane. You can't attack top and bottom. You can't attack all 3. You attack mid plus one of the 2 sides, not both. Not everyone. You can help all 3 lanes, but help is not gank and take extended periods of time to murder. Help is, oh, your lane's in a bad state, let me fix it for you and take 10 seconds of my time to do it. Vastly different. Right. Third thing, you have to be able to farm. If you have 24 farm at 7 minutes in any game whatsoever, you've coin flipped it. It's a complete random toss-up whether you win or not based on how competent the opponents are. It has nothing to do with your own gameplay anymore. That is the worst way to play any game. Why would you take a game of skill and make it a game of luck? That doesn't make sense anymore. So you really, really, really want to be able to still find ways to be able to get your farm. If you're perma-invading, you better be getting all those camps. They better be good invades. If you are not perma-invading, make your pathing efficient, just like we talked about with all the other junglers. Cannot coin flip everything. Does not work. All right, mid lane. Quick notes. So, Silas. Let me just do this so that everybody shows up. Wonderful. Silas. So, into Anivia, you start Q, you max Q. If you ever W the Anivia, you have killed yourself. If you W the Kindred, you have killed yourself. If you W the Alawi, you have killed yourself. If you W the Zaya, you have killed yourself. Unless you're already winning the fight, you're not using W. You're spamming Qs, you're relaxing, you're trying to poke them out to make their lives hard. And then you're dodging the Anivia Qs with your E, then you can try to look to all in based on what resources everybody has. W is bad here. W is only good versus melee matchups or matchups where you have the ability to dash in and fight uncontested. Which is why Silas is a bad champion. He is a champion that is forced to go all in to be able to function. So either his numbers are absurdly high, or he's worthless. That's actually how that works, because he's forced to all in. His numbers are not absurd right now. The fact that he's getting played is an atrocity, considering there's so many things that just make his life literally impossible. They're picking him, like, they started picking him into a Zero in pro play, which I heavily disagree with. Just pick any ganking jungler, just win the 2v2. Or after that, let me rephrase that, they started blind picking him, which is horrendous. Don't fucking blind pick Silas. There's too many counters. Way too many counters. So on the flip side, we have Anivia. Anivia generally starts Q, not E, because Q does infinitely more damage and has a stun. E also doesn't really do damage unless you actively slow them with your Q or your ultimate. This requires assistance to function. It's still okay to use it every once in a while as just like, oh, I'm going to proc mana flow, or, oh, I'm going to, like, I have high mana, I can afford to waste resources kind of thing. But 64 damage for 50 mana is an atrocity. It is horrendous. Just to put into perspective, J4's Flag, which is designed as a utility ability, as a secondary ability, right? Because it's also magic damage when he's physical, is 80 damage for 55 mana. Now, granted, cooldowns are a little different. But if you try to spam this, you will run out of mana before you kill anything. You could take a toddler, throw E on repeat at them, and they won't even have an issue. They might have a slight bruise. So Q is infinitely better. So notice how with the Silas, there's nothing that... Notice how with the Silas, you're Wing there to be able to get a minion, and you used an absurdly large amount of mana with a large timer for a singular minion. Comparatively, you can just take E, right? You can E to be able to last hit the minions with your passive, and then you still have E2 to be able to walk at the Anivia, and then E2 back. You can do so much more with this, but the second you burn W on these minions, Anivia should just Q you and kill you. Not kill, but chunk you out. So the fact that Anivia didn't, like, double auto plus E-trade you to proc the electrocute and you lost, like, a quarter of your life is saying something. You should be incredibly punished for this. So similar concept to all other mid laners that I've seen in every single game in existence, neither side is trying to do anything currently. But Anivia has a hard winning side. Whenever it's melee versus range, the range wins very, very heavily. Awesome. First aggressive trade. Good. Notice how W couldn't do anything there. W still hasn't done anything. It's gotten you a minion so far. Doesn't do anything. Level 2, you should be taking Q. Because again, unless you're trying to all in the Anivia who has Egg and a Kindred, he's not helping you. Excuse me. So now we're in a very, very bad lane state because we over-rotated. Anivia's trying to shove this. Good. Anivia should back off, go here, and reset. When she resets, she should pick up Darkseal, walk back to lane. Because even with 12 out of 19 farm, it's still enough for Darkseal. This makes absolutely no sense to do. Even if you hit this, Anivia just trades back, and you end up losing minions for it. So why would we ever want that trade? Also, Anivia level 3 should be 2 points E. Perfect. Good, 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 good. So this is what I talk about with the whole, like, resetting thing. Because with this wave underneath turret, right? If we're backing all the way off to here, we're clearly not abusing him. It's also very hard to abuse people under turret because junglers can... junglers can constantly show up. Mid laners can... top laners can constantly show up. Supports can constantly show up. If that is the context, it's very hard to abuse someone underneath turret. Also, turrets, besides bot lane, take 50% reduced champion damage up until 5 minutes. So you can't play for plate. So you have to attack the Silas. That's your only way to play the game. But it's too early in the game to actually be able to attack the Silas without killing yourself cleanly. So if you reset by Dark Seal, he doesn't have the capability to be able to shove this wave plus this wave before you get back. So then you have a freeze while you're stronger than him, and then his life is miserable. Because notice what we're doing here. We're playing incredibly passive because we're on his side of the map. Because just like I talked about previously, being on the opponent's third of the map is the worst spot to be at. Because you can't attack them cleanly because they can just take 2 steps back and be safe. You also have the farthest run back to your own turret, so you're putting yourself in harm's way. So you playing back is now a byproduct of this, but you could have just not been here this entire time. And now we're just spamming out Q. So every time we use Q on the wave, it's thinning out the wave, which then makes it push into us less. But realistically, we have a level advantage because he missed a couple minions. We're straight up stronger than him. Why don't we just freeze? We should have items while freezing, but we can just freeze this here. So if we're going to aim for him, get closer. Because he can always dash your Q if it's long range. And if he dashes your Q, he can all in you because you don't have 6 yet. So right here, for instance, right, if you decide to Q him, all he has to do is dash to the side, W you, auto attack you, Q, auto attack, E. You're screwed. Okay, so he's just bad Silas. Because that was W on minion, that was E on minion, and then that was Q, and then we missed all of the auto attacks. Everything was bad there. But similar concept, right? If we hold a freeze, then we don't even have to do that. We don't have to force that. Because then the wave can be held right here, and he has to walk up to here to be able to interact with anything without just spamming out Qs. If he just spams out Q, he misses minions. Awesome, we're winning. If he's just spamming out Q. Then Kindred can come in for free and get it. Granted, that should have been a free kill as well, but point stands. You can make it easier. And now all of a sudden, you have this freeze. Silas is nowhere to be found, and you don't have TP. So you can't take a reset here. You have to hold this. And Silas is forced to play up really heavily. So the best time to be able to throw out your skill shots is whenever he's forced to farm. And then also, we have 2 potions still. If we want to hold this, we can hold this, and we just pull it up this way. And then you place a ward right here to be able to have safety from J4. But because we don't have a freeze and because it crashed, Silas gets to recall. If Kindred didn't stop that, well, then we'd be in the bad state. Which is funny. We've been winning this lane the entire time, and we would be in the bad state because of that. And again, we're literally just not recalling in any decent manner. If Silas wanted to hold this freeze and just deny you farm, Silas would hold that freeze and deny you farm. But both mid laners aren't trying to do anything with the wave. We're just kind of existing. And because we're just kind of existing, well, that's just who's better at farming. And in this context, it's Anivia. Boop. Fight was close. Realistically, if Anivia just kited down and got out of the Silas ultimate, then it was hard win for Anivia. Anivia had a way to hard win that. Okay, so now Silas has to take a bad recall. We have 2 options. We can either slow push waves to be able to get a crash and then get a reset off, or a roam. Second option is we can fast push and say we're making a play right now this second. Which is there a play that can be made right now this second? Invade on blue, actually, yes. So Anivia should hard shove this wave. Both sides should play for blue buff. Because even if Akali can rotate, it's a 2v2, but Anivia is too massive. It doesn't matter. Nope. That's fine. If lanes aren't going to push, then it doesn't matter. Because also Alawi at this stage can just instant clear waves too. So Alawi has the option to be there. Okay, so trick on Anivia as well. When you turn off the ultimate, it does 1 additional tick of damage. So you can cancel it 1 tick earlier to save yourself some mana when you're clearing waves. Okay, similar concept. You should not be Eing that. You can just start like walking at Silas and autoing him if you are going to E it. Or you can choose to E Silas and auto attack the minion to the last hit. Either way, Silas should be being punished here. There's no reason for him to be allowed to do this. Place the wall, forces dash. If you place the wall and auto attack him with red buff, he doesn't have any option in the matter to be able to win besides either going in or going over the wall. If he goes all in, all you do is double tap Q, press E, press ultimate, and make sure he can't E you. And he just loses. Okay. The reason for E over top of the wall is it forces cooldowns on his part, because you can just auto attack him so hard with the red buff. And your E only gets empowered whenever your ultimate is fully charged or you land the Q. But if your ultimate's not fully charged, it's still the half damage. Oh, and now Silas tanked this entire wave. So if your wave is ever underneath turret like this, the only reason to hold it outside of turret like that and make sure everything's still hitting you is if you're trying to freeze it. But if you notice, all of this is basically underneath turret. So just let it go underneath turret. Let the minion aggro reset, watch what the minions are hitting, and then make sure it's hitting the turret. Goodbye. If you watch someone walk down this way, don't hover this pocket. That's about as easy as it gets. There you go. Please go home. 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 Another bad reset, so we don't get to expend our gold. And remember, as long as you're sitting on gold, you don't actually have any power. So if we look at this, right? Lost Chapter is worth 40 AP, right? 300 mana, and 10 ability haste. Well, that's 20, that's 40, so that's gone. That's 250, so you're up 50 mana, and there's no ability haste. So all you have on Silas right now is 50 mana, plus ability haste, and then mana when you level up. His power is basically the same as yours, unless you just spam out waves. Reset. Go home. Spend your gold. I think the 3 biggest takeaways from the tryouts so far are trade when your opponent has no cooldowns and you have cooldowns. Recalls are incredibly valuable. Please actively use them in order to get item advantages. And third is, please pay attention to junglers. Hands down the 3 biggest things. I'm assuming this lane phase is relatively stagnant, and it's just a bunch of mana for not enough kill pressure. Because we're sitting on literally this much gold. Wait, don't we have more to spend? 8 for... No, that's not Leanders. That's not Leanders. Okay. We could have picked up Dark Seal potentially, but then this triple starter item. Triple starter item feels bad. Okay. Does anything else get accomplished in this lane, or is it the same stuff over and over? Oh, we're taking Raptors. Good. That's really good on Nibia. So now you clear this wave, and now you reset, and you just take an economy reset. Because if you notice, the next wave coming in hasn't even spawned yet. So if you reset right now, the wave comes into existence when you get back to base. Then you just start immediately walking out. Right? And by the time you actually start leaving base, the minion wave is about here. Right? So then by the time the wave gets into the lane, you're already here. A little bit farther back, actually. A little bit farther back. So you're probably closer to, like, here. And then by the time Silas clears the wave, you 100% are already in the lane before the melees die. Or before the entire wave is cleared. So that way you can hold the freeze. So this would just be an economy reset. And the way he deals with this economy reset is he freezes the wave. But he's already proven he doesn't know how to freeze because he's just AFK shoved every wave in existence. So now we took the economy reset, but we're leaving base super, super late. And because we're leaving base super, super late, we run into an issue along with our recall was super, super late. If you're ever going to recall in mid lane, as a side note, you can just back off and go around this corner. And when you go around this corner, even to like just right here, they have to full turn the corner before they can see you. So it becomes a really, really good recall spot. Nice. How did this play out? Did he just AFK fight? Yeah, he just AFK fought. See, Silas has to be able to AFK fight to be able to function. If he can't AFK fight, he's worthless. So he just picked a really, really bad time to go in because wave was coming in. No idea where the opposing jungler is. Your jungler is bot side. Why are we fighting? Doesn't make sense. Play around junglers. Don't just fight. Also, if we max the right ability and also not take ignite and we take TP, laner's infinitely easier. We're also maxing the wrong ability second, and this is still rank 4, not even rank 5, because at level 9 you get your first ability rank 5. So we put an extra point to E on accident. How's this maxing going? That's correct. Everybody else maxing correctly before we progress? Yes, yes, yes. No, sorry, that was the no. That one's correct. That one's correct. That's level 9. This should be rank 5 Q. So we have another misclick. That's correct. That's correct. That's... Yeah, it's W second. Yeah, I have to think about that. That's correct. Okay, so we have 2 misclicks. Alright. Yeah, there's nothing more to gain from this mid lane. We have to start playing around lane states. We have to start playing around junglers. Because right now we're just AFK shoving and just accepting what's in front of us. If you want to punish someone, you either freeze or you crash it and then you go do something. Whether it's you roam, whether it's you reset, whether it's you go take an objective, something. When you crash the wave, do something. Always, always, always do something. Alright. Bot lane. This is nice. We're going much, much faster through this one. It's only 1 AM. That's not bad. Alright. So, bot lane. Yes! Sort of. So, okay. Draven has a mechanic where when you leash him, or when you leash as him, you pop your axe, you auto attack up until, like, like 4 auto attacks, some shit like that. And then you start walking away. And as you're walking back to lane, your Q will come off cooldown. So that you can have 2 axes as you're entering lane. That should be the standard. So it should be 2 axe spinning Draven right now, but we have 0. So, problem. So, like, playing forward is innately correct, right? A lot of the time. Because if we're in lane first and we have this power, we want to play forward. Problem. Xayah's level 1 is shit unless she's with Rakan. This is a bad ability. Passive doesn't do anything. W is generally what you want to start if you want to fight. And generally, like with Rakan, Rakan gets this W as well. That's why it's so nice. Swain's level 1 is dog shit. Because you have to hit a very hard to hit ability. It then has to not be cleansed. Then when it does hit, its damage is relatively meh, and then you have to pull them towards you, which, yeah, it heals you, but it's for a tiny amount early game. So 3% of 100 is 3, multiplied by 6 is 18. So you gain 28 life for the Rend, and it deals 74 damage. That's, again, only if it hits. And that's comparatively to Draven, who is dealing 50 bonus damage an axe. If he's holding 2 axes, it's every auto attack. On the second auto attack, it has outdone everything that Swain does. That's, again, only if it lands. Xayah's level 1 is also very bad because it doesn't do anything. So if Rakan lands W on the Swain that's all the way up here because Xayah's not playing forward, the Swain's just dead. Swain just dies. That's assuming Draven knows how to hold both axes, though. But Swain was playing forward before Draven turned the quarter. So that doesn't become a logical thought process. Then also, Xayah doesn't want to play forward because if Xayah does play forward, Draven just destroys her in isolation. So you guys lose the 2v2. You guys lose the 1v1. Oh, 1v1. At level 1. There's no reason to play forward under that context. There's also no reason to ward this because we can just run at them. So for instance, right here, Rakan should just go ahead and W this. And you should just fight. Because if Rakan Ws, Swain has to E. And it has to go at Draven. If it's at Rakan, Rakan just takes 2 steps to the left or to the right. And that doesn't hit anymore. Even if he buffers it correctly. It's really easy to get around. Then if it does hit Draven, Draven can just cleanse, keep running directly at the Swain. Xayah doesn't have enough damage to stop this bum rush. And then the Swain is forced to exhaust. But again, what happens if the E didn't hit, then Draven just cleanses the exhaust. Now Swain has to flash. If Swain flashes, then Draven flashes. And then Swain is just dead. That's a kill. There's nothing that Swain does level 1 that's relevant. Except for like little instances of poke. Like once this is down, Rakan should just W onto Xayah right here. And they should just both turn onto Xayah because Swain's just done for the rest of the fight. Doesn't do anything. And then just cleanse the exhaust. Yes! Oh my god, yes! Yes! Go! 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 Yes! Just keep going! Just keep going! Just keep going! I don't know who you are! I don't remember you! But yes! Ah! We have found life in someone! Oh, I'm so happy! Yes! Xayah is out of position. Swain is out of position. Swain is attempting to trade onto the Draven, and then Xayah is attempting to assist with missing the Q. Even if the Q lands, it doesn't matter. Rakan then responds, but it should be kite forward, Xayah dies. That's how it should be played out, because then if Xayah gets immediately ignited, so she can't heal. The heal becomes worthless. Swain should exhaust the Draven. Draven cleanses. If Xayah flashes, Draven can flash to finish. But Nate, oh, you end up backing off, and you backing off stops the Draven from being able to go forward. This is kill if you're still playing aggressive. It was a good initial trade, bad from that point forward. That should be dead Xayah. Because you missed a lot of auto attacks that should be in existence. Okay, and now with Swain E down, again, Swain E is down, go. Go. Cooldowns, no cooldowns, go. This is also level 2, right? Yeah. So somehow we got the initial first trade that was fucking phenomenal. We have more power than them by a long shot. And then they hit level 2 first. We've seen this trend in all 4 games now, I think. The lane that's supposed to hit level 2 first with base play is not hitting level 2 first. And now granted, the level 2 did not happen first here because we didn't just kill the Xayah. It's fascinating. Okay. So then realistically, Swain's way too far up here. This should be an immediate W. Take Q level 2. Auto W to be able to hit. This should also be Spell Thieves as a side note because you have very easy trades onto Swain. They're a joke. Take the Q, take the Q, take the Q, Q, Q. No! It's Q because this is just kills. You can press E, or you can take E level 2 if you want to go in, knock up, then your AD carry takes a quick trade, and then you get out, and then that's the entire burst trade. But we want to pursue this. We don't want to get out. So then Draven should go hard. Okay, so we just missed it. Oh, we missed the X. That sucks. So it's fascinating. Swain E's are single-handedly throwing this lane because the second he throws it out is the second the opponents are allowed to all in. And then from there, every time he's Eing, it's baiting Xayah to be able to go forward to trade when Xayah has no ability to trade there because you guys lose this lane. So that's just kind of funny. Now, granted, should Xayah be putting herself in those positions after the E? No, but again, the second this Swain E goes out, these two should just bum rush you guys because Swain's not a champion anymore. That's how bad he is as a support. You have how long of a cooldown? You have 9 seconds of, like, you're literally useless. You are 100% useless the second this misses. You don't do anything. Everything else in Swain's kit early game is a joke. So as a solo laner, right, you generally have enough AP to still be spooky. Or like it's just a singular target to be able to cause an issue, right? As an AD carry, you generally have a support to be able to engage for you to allow the E to guaranteed land, and then you can play for pops off that. Or someone to be able to defend you normally. But you as the support is supposed to defend the AD carry and carry this lane. But he can't. He's not good enough as a champion. Then also Swain level 2 pretty much always takes W so that you have the combo. Because this Q level 2 is significantly worse than this W because you just want to play for the pops. Because again, if you go E into pull back into Q, you killed yourself in a duo lane. Not really an option. Oh, too far. Too far. That actually shouldn't have been a flash by Xayah. I should have just fought that out. They were also down a level. They went in when it was level 2 instead of level 3. So if they were 3, there was potentially better. Okay, so again, supports want to be able to play around bushes. We don't want to play out in the open, because when we play out in the open, nothing actually occurs. Everybody knows everybody else's engage range. There's no pressure being created. And again, the second Swainy is down, just go. But I will say, this is a spark of life comparatively to no supports playing the game. I like this. Both supports are trying to play the game. Swain is doing it at wrong times. Nate's doing it at the correct times. But Nate is doing it incorrectly, so it's not causing kills. There are ways to be able to fix this. This is good. This is so far like the happiest I've been looking at bot lane in 4 games. Again, it's still, there's a lot of things that would cause problems, like Xayah should have been dead level 1. Xayah should have been dead level 2. Swain should have been dead level 2. Swain is throwing at E's very, very heavily, where again, this can just be cleansed. No! Right time, wrong target. Everything seems to be the right time for when he's engaging. It's when it's no cooldowns to cooldowns. But right there, how does Draven ever hit this Xayah? If Draven can never hit the Xayah, how do we do it? Does Draven have flash? Draven has flash. Could we have flash on top of the Xayah? Because Xayah has no flash. That is the question. There's the root finishing. So no, we have to catch this axe. So you could potentially E right now and then flash and then auto and then just cleanse the exhaust. So if you're willing to burn double summoners on Draven, that's a kill. That is actually a kill. But do we care about that comparatively to just going on the Swain? And then Xayah can't play the game, because if Xayah tries to auto attack either one, then Draven can, again, burn double summons to kill. So you're just destroying Swain's health pool. That becomes the question. Yeah, because Draven could have gotten 2 more auto attacks off during that. E is really, really bad. Doesn't serve any purpose. Go home, go home, go home, go home. Yeah, I think going on Swain there was better. And then you turn on Xayah only if Xayah comes in. Because I don't think wasting Draven double sums is worth it. Because at any point in time, this can be a free kill lane, especially on first reset because of Serrated Dirk. So Flash has a lot of intrinsic value. So if you can burn 1 to be able to win this fight, and 1 to be able to win the next fight, then your cleanse will be back up by 3rd fight if you burn only cleanse that fight. So I think that's the correct play. Oh, could he have cleansed Swain Root, actually? Maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe he just cleanses Swain Root, and then that's kill. If he can cleanse Swain Root... No, because exhaust comes out. No, exhaust comes out. That doesn't work. He has to save cleanse for exhaust if he wants skill. Yeah, okay. So we get reset off here. Show me Serrated Dirk. Show me Serrated Dirk refillable. No! Okay. I want to talk about this. Because this is something that other people have done before, and I want to explain why this is bad. So Draven has massive mana issues in the early game. It's why he generally goes Essence Reaver as the first completed item to be able to fix this problem, right? But, if he's just allowed the free auto, it's still disgusting. Like, his damage output is still absurdly high. So, if you back on 700 gold, your options are Sheen or Double Longsword. The Sheen deals 70 bonus damage, right? But each auto attack is dealing 25 bonus because of Draven Q. Because of the Double Longsword. Oh, sorry, that's 85. No, it's higher than that. So it's closer to like 30, like low 30s, right? So in 2 auto attacks, it's already beaten out the Sheen damage. You're getting 3 auto attacks per 1.5 seconds. So unless you're playing for a singular auto attack, the Double Longsword is better because it requires 0 mana to be able to use, because you're just holding your axes. So when you buy Sheen, you're basically stating every second and a half or every time I want to trade, I am forced to burn mana. I do not have an option. And generally you're using 1 W to be able to fight, but again, by 3rd auto attack, it's already beaten out the Sheen. So that doesn't make logical sense to be able to purchase. Unless, again, you're going 1 auto attack. But you're not going 1 auto attack. Second, when you purchase Sheen, Serrated Dirk is a massive spike. Absurdly massive because of the bonus AD and the lethality, right? When you buy Sheen at the 700 gold, you now have to wait 1,100 more gold for your Serrated Dirk. When you buy the 2 longswords, you now have the ability to back on 400 gold for Serrated Dirk. Wonderful. You now have the, and this is a huge spike, or you have the ability to back on 700 gold for Sheen. And that's a massive spike. You get a massive spike on either of these 2 recalls. When you buy Sheen first, you only get a massive spike on 1,100 gold. That's all you get. And when we're an early game abuser, we don't want to wait that long. So take a bad first recall before level 6, which, by the way, again, if you're getting 3 auto attacks off or more, it's not a bad recall per fight. It's just not. It is just better than Sheen straight up. If you're playing for a singular auto attack, then Sheen is better for an immediate power spike, but generally you're trying to kill people up to 6, which is like right around 2nd recall. So yeah. Sorry, Dirk, much better. Boots also don't make sense on Draven because realistically, Rakan's always going to be able to engage for you, and you always have the movement speed plus a slow to be able to go in. Boots have no relevancy, just power damage. Unless they're like playing super double long range, you power damage. Okay, so right here, Raj should just be dead. This should just be W into multiple auto attacks. Please go forward. Oh, okay. W late in a bad position, and then Draven should have just taken the Swain W. By the way, I love this animation. Draven should have just taken the Swain W and then just gotten off like 4 auto attacks on the Swain and then Force Flash. That E is literally, again, the death sentence. All of these E's have caused this bot lane to cause massive issues because Swain's not a champion after E and it's really hard to hit. And even if it does hit, why do the opponents care? Unless your AD carry deals an absurdly large amount of damage to them in a short period of time, it doesn't matter. If they do, why don't we pick Leona, Nautilus, Rel, Alistar, anything with more reliable crowd control that can have relevancy during downtime. If you want to make the argument for, well, I want to be a ranged champion to do that, go play Zyra. Zyra Root does the same thing. Zyra also plays counter engage just fine. If the argument is you want to be a big bird, you're not a big bird as a support. Go play another role. Because you don't have the resources to be able to do it. So now, with this massive discrepancy, we should just be fighting. Fight, 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 fight. Cleanse, 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 please cleanse. That's a super light cleanse. Okay. So this is super important to be able to note. This is a very, very big desync of what's occurring. Because notice how Draven wants to be able to fight here, which is actually correct. And then Nate wants to be able to sit back and do nothing. We end up running into this issue of now, okay, you're playing like the rest of the supports that we've seen. If your Draven is up here, your Draven is up here. We want to fight. We've shown we win every single fight. Why are we backing away? Why are we playing safe? Go. Now on top of that as well, if we want to play this out correctly for Kunmeister, the second this Ren comes out, this must be a flash to here so that you don't take the Ren damage, and then you continue fighting. Then once the exhaust comes out, you cleanse it. So the second he gets exhausted, this has to be a cleanse right now. If we notice when the cleanse actually takes place, the exhaust is actually over by the time we cleanse. That's how late it was. So the Draven did have the ability to just straight up solo win this fight if he played it better. Excuse me. Pop. But ends up being what? 2 for 1? Yeah, 2 for 1. Again, that looks so much better than it should have been because, again, Draven should have just been able to solo carry that. Or if Nate was playing farther forward and had the ability to W either target instantaneously, then it's just a hard one fight too. Either way, hard wins the fight. But just the power discrepancy isn't even close, and it's literally because Swain is the problem. So, okay. Also, if you are going a non-support item as a support, you better be able to justify its resources and justify what it can do, and you have no better option. So on Swain, for instance, Swain loves Imperial Mandate because he applies a lot of slows, and it's a really, really cheap item that adds an insanely large amount of damage. So if this is Liandry's, Liandry's scales better than Imperial Mandate. It does. It really does. But the problem is that's not your job as a support. If we want to scale for damage output, we have 17 better options. We have Brand, we have Zyro, we have Vel'Koz, we have Xerath, we have Anivia. Anivia support's disgusting. We have all these better options, but the argument for Swain is I want to be a big bird. But you can't be a big bird without resources, but you don't get resources in support. So why don't we just go play something else? Doesn't make sense. Now, also on top of that, Imperial Mandate plus Rylai's is such a massive spike for Swain that solo lane Swain builds it frequently. It's actually his most common build. So if solo lanes are building it because it's such a cheap power spike that's insanely like hard spike with allies, why wouldn't we want the Imperial Mandate plus Rylai's for a support when it's super, super cheap? We're always playing with an ally. Doesn't make sense why we want one item instead of 2. Because Liandry's is what? 3,200? 3,400? I want to say it's 3,200. Imperial Mandate is 25? 25 or 26. And Rylai's is 26, I believe. Vision had the chance to go 1 for 1 instead of 2 for 1? If he dodged, yeah. It's definitely a possibility. But realistically, the bigger thing is it shouldn't even gotten to that state.
Well, he kills here with this next auto, right? He doesn't have to W in, right?
Oh, no, he needed to W in. His auto attacks do nothing. Yeah, 85. There's no way that kills. So he's rooted right there. There's the auto attack that goes off. Yeah, his auto attacks are literally doing 35 damage. So it's 80 life already because potion ticking. Yeah, 50 damage right there. 44, 49, 53. Too much. He's also too far away to be able to auto attack. So he has to W. W is correct. Taking the tower shot is bad, missing the Q is bad. So he had to wait to be able to escape. But the bigger problem is down here. All of this is infinitely more important than this. That's how the fight started, because there's no reason to be starting the fight on the back foot. But this is good. This is like the first bot lane that's like going in frequently. That's like, okay, they have no cooldowns, we're going. This is the first support to show life. This is the first AD carry to show life. Hell yeah. Alright, Swain is 6. This is when Swain is supposed to be spooky. But after all the changes to Swain, he's not spooky anymore at 6. Unless he gets to sit in the fight for an extended period of time. Why is he allowed to sit in the fight for an extended period of time when he's behind in resources? Because he's a support. Doesn't make sense. Okay. We're also approaching farm here in a second. Kindra is down here. They're aware Kindra is down here. That's a really good W, but Swain, again, doesn't do anything. E-range is so short that it's so easy to be able to play around. Oh my god, they knew the jungler was here and they didn't walk forward. We have a lane that's thinking about the jungler too. We've now found a second one. Holy shit, we're doing it. Okay, we're also at 10 minutes. Let's back this up to the 10-minute mark. 70 farm, 66 farm, both sides are permafighting. If both sides are permafighting here and both sides like have equivalent farm to the diamond players, why are the diamond players better? Both supports here are actually trying to play the game. Both AD carries are farming and fighting, while AD carries in the other games were just farming. Show me the difference. That's a massive red flag for the higher-ups. Because if the argument is, oh, in higher-ups we get abused more, so we miss more farm. You weren't. We watched. If the argument is, oh, we were fighting a lot. This lane is perma-fighting. It's not an excuse. Okay, so this should be freezing the wave and waiting because they know that Kindred... Oh, actually, is this up? Yeah, this is up. They don't have wards to be able to say. So yeah, they should freeze for safety and then call court over because 3v3 they should just win. 3v3 it should not even be remotely close. Because Kindred is just way too far behind. And J4 just has more early game power. Good. Yes, go, go, go. Or you can go through here. Either way, you can wait here and wait for the fight to start, and then Nate can start it off with ult and then W. J4 can then just walk around the corner during the CC duration, then EQ. That works, because you can also have Draven E. What's up, Kindred? How's it going? Oh, that's a bad W. So, realistically, this, like, Rakan's really special because he really showcases how good the player skill is, because there's so much you can do with him. So when we see the Kindred leaving... We see the Xayah all the way back here. Kindred is here. Raj is here. This is just a kill on Swain. Swain is forced to ult here or die. If Swain ults, he still has a 50-50 chance of dying due to Ignite. This W needs to go forward. Because there's no way in hell he W's forward, Swain E's this way to be able to guaranteed hit the Rakan, then Rakan doesn't E out in time. Yeah, notice that damage outputs. This is through... Look at this. Oh, if we just immediately went in on the Swain, we just killed. And we notice as well, right? The only reason Swain's able to survive here, it's not because of Swain ultimate. It's not because he's super beefy. It's not because he's hyper accelerated or anything. Like, he's slightly accelerated, but that's whatever. It's literally we're not cleansing the exhaust. It's we're not using Ignite right at the start of the fight. It's that Rakan literally used 2 of his 3 abilities before he entered the fight. Everything is just late. J4 EQ completely missed, or he dies there as well. There's so many ways Swain dies here. That is insane. And it's not even from, like, complicated play. It's literally just, okay, Swain's isolated. He just dies. If we want to kill the Swain, we can kill the Swain. The champion is not good. 12 minutes, 700, 580. So this is really, really low. This is slightly low. Okay, but again, at least we're seeing some form of life, which is good. So now with Gale Force on Xayah versus just full Essence Reaver, which, by the way, never rush full Essence Reaver, always go Dark into Essence Reaver. Because Essence Reaver plays off of bonus AD, which he cares about very, very heavily. Please build the Dirk first, because also lethality for the early game spike. If you're not going that build, then you rush Shield Bow into the Essence Reaver instead. Okay. So do we know where Kindred is? We do not. J4 is on the other side of the map. We have very little vision. This can be spooky very, very easily. So playing back is correct up until we see otherwise. Once we have proper knowledge of where the opposing jungler is, Rakan should have the ability to go in. So right now we should want to freeze and hold this wave so that they don't have the ability to pressure us fully. If we push the wave out, we have the chance to die. So we just kind of chill. Unfortunately with Draven, Draven's one of the 280 carries that almost always auto pushes. So Tristana always auto pushes, Draven always auto pushes. The only time Draven doesn't auto push is whenever he's allowing his axes to drop, because he has to auto attack on set timers. So it's not as bad as Trist, but it's still pretty bad. No flash, no flash. Those are kills. So they see him, they're not reacting in time. This should be EQ, and then this should be ult, or this should be ult. Probably ult onto the Xayah is better. So then the only reason that this can't work is because not paying attention, not paying attention. But that should have been able to work. That should have been a kill or 2. Probably 2 kills realistically. Going through. So now the Xayah is just pushing and we're not trying to accomplish anything. What's up? Hey, we're back. That was a bad Rakan engage. Oh, bad Rakan engage caused issues. So let's actually watch the Swain's life here. So Swain gets knocked up. Draven knocks to the side. Charm. Draven missed an auto attack there. Like, just a similar context. Like, Swain's not healing for enough to be able to be relevant, and he's not tanky enough to be able to do anything, and he's not damagey enough to be able to do anything. He just kind of exists. If you swap this up for the majority of supports, it's a harder one fight. That's even with Rakan missing the knockup too. I could make the argument that Swain should ult earlier, and then the support should die. But it shouldn't just be the support dying in that context. It should be more than that. Because, like, the fact that Rakan missed the knock-up and everything after the J4 Cataclysm with Zyalt just means that there's so much that could have been turned there so easily. Because Rakan fucked it. So it's basically a 2v3 fight. Or sorry, a 2v2 fight, not 3v2 fight. Oh, smack. This was the good TP, yeah. Because top lane's just losing card. Oh, Shirley's. Are we running the correct item here? Should this be Moonstone or should this be Shirley's? I think with how we play out fights, this shouldn't be Shirley's. This should be Moonstone. Moonstone better. Actually, no. Range. No, this should be Shirley's. Shirley's is correct. This is correct. I'm wrong. Well, it's not bad. So realistically, a couple things to be able to keep in mind. Draven has to be able to use summoners better, and on time, we cannot be late on those. We also want to be able to create more isolated trades, where when people are stepping up, they should be punished. So the Swain stepped up multiple times and should have been dying multiple times. Same concept to the Rakan. The Rakan was able to find engages when it was cooldowns, no cooldowns, which is like the second lane in all of tryouts so far that has been able to do that. Yay, something. Yes. But then with that, it was picking wrong targets or like you were spacing too far away. You were basically too scared during downtime to be in the correct position to punish the mistakes correctly and fully. And then also, you have to be trusting yourself to be able to go. If someone's at like one hit, finish them off. End it. Right? And then also, similar concept, when the Swain is walking forward in isolation, Swain is here, Xayah is here, you're standing here, just kill it. Just kill it. Everything is about numeric advantage. If you can create a 2-on-1 scenario, you have a 2-on-1 scenario, take it. That's what you're actively looking and trying to create as an engaged support. Yep. On the Xayah side, when you have an advantage and you're actively like starting to win the lane, you have to stop AFK pushing. When you AFK push, notice how Draven's farming and you're farming and there's no actual advantage being gained, even though you were massive a second ago. You were 3-1 a second ago. Excuse me. And the Draven was like 0-2. Rakan was like 1-2, some shit like that. You were so much stronger than them because they screwed up the lane so heavily and just missed out on so many free kills that you have to stop AFK pushing. In order to punish a lane, there are a couple ways to do it. Either you freeze and deny them, either you push to dive, or you push to rotate to a play, whether it's dragon, whether it's defending your own camps, whether it's an invade, things along the lines of that, or you push to reset and then purchase. You got your 4 ways. Pick one of the 4 ways. Do not just AFK push to AFK push. If you're AFK pushing and then doing nothing, red flags should start popping up in your head if something's going wrong. I'm not gaining any advantage. Why aren't I gaining any advantage? All right. On the Swain side, with the Swain, we have to be very, very cautious of when we actually throw out our E's on support, because when you do throw out the E, it's a long cooldown. It's something that if it misses, it's massive. If it does hit, then it has to be that real quick trade and then bail, right? We can't stay in for an extended fight in the early stages of the game because we're not tanky enough. We have too long of cooldowns. And especially when it's 2-on-1, they can both turn you very quickly. Along within the majority of the lane, when you were playing forward, you were playing forward, which can be okay, but you're playing forward to isolate yourself. So if Xayah's here, you're here. Even if technically you're supposed to be playing up, you can't be playing up there because you can just suicide there. And that's important to be able to note. You have to watch where your ally is. And a lot of the times when you were playing forward, your Xayah didn't have the ability to walk forward because you are against a Draven Rakan. So the majority of this lane, you should have been dying on repeat with your playstyle there. But I will take that over the previous play with the Zillion. Absolutely, I will take functioning there. It can be tuned, it can be or it can be worked around, but I can give actual feedback because of this. All right. Excuse me. And then also, when it comes to Swain ultimates in general, because of how it works now, the second they're all-inning you is the second you start. It's not old Swain ultimate where it has an actual set duration, where you're looking to basically just charge it up and pop it, and then it's done. You want to drain as long as possible. So the second J4 is EQing onto you is the second you're pressing ultimate. The second Rakan is going into you, and the second that Draven is committing to it is the second you press R. No later. And the sooner you get that off, the more damage you can pump out, and the more healing you can pump out. And then also, you can get to the detonation slightly faster to be able to assist you. Alrighty. Man, that's the first bot lane I'm relatively happy with. Hell yeah. We did things. It was not all correct things, but we did things. Fuck yeah. So, with that, I am going to be ending the stream here because it's 1:44 a.m. We got through 2 games, which is better than normal in the time frame. Less than what I wanted to do, though, which kind of sucks, but is what it is. So, tomorrow I'm not sure when I'll be on, but we'll see. I'll need to be able to edit this video a little bit, too. So, those are still here. Thanks for hopping out. and I will get this video up in the near future. Have a good night, everyone.